Hello and welcome to the podcast that is taking a yellow card to reveal a vest saying I belong to Jesus in its post-goal celebration. It's the big man up top.
Oh, Ed, it is the big man up top. It's nice to be back.
It's lovely, isn't it? After, Easter and all of that.
Mini hiatus. What did Gary Neville call his holidays? Mini retirement?
Is that what he said?
Yeah, a little mini retirement for a couple of weeks. But we are back, and what a week to be back.
What a week. This feels like the biggest week of football chat since we started this whole podcast.
Massive.
Stories everywhere.
I think so, yeah. There's a lot to cover today. What are we going to talk about?
We'll be chatting about Liverpool winning the league.
What?
I know. We'll also be chatting about the FA Cup semi-finals and all about the promotion and relegation pictures from around the Football League. We're going to touch on European football a little bit.
Yep.
But we're also going to be talking about turning doubt into belief, inspired by the Liverpool documentary, Joe. What was that called?
Yeah, so this was called Doubters to Believers. This was all about Jurgen Klopp. This is something he said in his first ever press conference for Liverpool about turning doubters into believers, which I think is obviously drawing some quite nice parallels with our faith.
Yeah, certainly. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
We are. But first, Ed.
Yes.
Now, we've had a couple of weeks off our regular quizzing schedule. You had quite a difficult question from producer Anthony.
Yeah, for anyone who listened to the episode a couple of weeks ago, I feel like Anthony really rubbed salt into the wounds.
Did.
I don't have a great deal of self-esteem when it comes to this game as it is.
And he didn't help, did he?
He did not help.
Who was the answer?
I honestly can't remember now.
Was it John something? I thought...
John Charles. Yes,
John
it was.
Charles.
Welsh legend John Charles.
Wow, I was listening and I thought it was John Hartson, but I was wrong with John Hartson. But this week, I am going to be quizzing you, Ed. So this is Bible Ballers. It is Guess the Player with a Difference. The player will share his first name with the name of a book in the Bible. Are you ready, Ed, for this week's question?
I'm ready. The last few weeks, I've been in the gym.
Yeah, you've been doing your research.
Doing my research.
And reading the contents of your Bible.
Reading the contents
seeing
page.
which one matches up.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm feeling up for this.
Confident. Well, I'm very happy with this question, Ed. Which former centre-back was sent off during a World Cup final and has won the Premier League having represented both clubs on Merseyside?
Won the Premier League... represented both clubs on Merseyside.
Yep.
Sent off in a World Cup final.
He has, yes.
Well, I was instantly drawn to Marco Materazzi.
Okay, yeah.
But it wasn't him that got sent off, was it?
He provoked the man that got sent off.
He was the victim in that, because I remember that sending off.
That sending off, indeed. Zinedine Zidane.
I'm going to have to root through World Cup final sendings off.
Well, feel free to. I'll give you the rest of the episode to have a little think, Ed, of who that might be.
Thanks, Joe. So, Joe, I thought we'd start this week with a Bible verse.
Oh, shaking it up a bit.
I know. Yeah, it's crunch time in the season. You've got to be thinking outside the box, haven't you? So this passage is from John chapter 20, and it is about Jesus appearing to Thomas. Specifically, Easter's happened, the resurrection, all of the news is spreading. Jesus is alive, Jesus is alive. And that's the context of where we begin this story. And it says, now Thomas, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. A week later, the disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. Thomas said to him, my Lord and my God. Then Jesus told him, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. So we're talking today about doubters and believers.
We're going to touch on how do we keep believing in things, I guess. What keeps us going? What little things can we do to believe?
Now, first of all, Joe, I have to say, you are a Liverpool fan.
I am.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Do you know what? I had a lot of texts last night saying congratulations, and I'm a bit like
you've done it.
Right. What do I say? Obviously, I'm absolutely delighted. But what a day!
What a day!
Amazing day.
And we'll touch on that. But what the first question I want to ask, Joe, is when did you go from being a doubter to a believer?
This season in particular?
Yes, that's right.
I think no Liverpool fan has expected this to happen.
No.
I think they've been absolutely exceptional. There was that game away at Brentford, I think, that it was 0-0 for the whole game. We still had a lead in the title race, but they weren't playing as well.
Yeah.
But then Darwin Núñez got a double right at the death. And I think at that point, I and a lot of Liverpool fans were a bit like, oh, this could actually happen.
This could be our year.
Now.
Well, so just paint a picture for, for everyone who isn't a Liverpool fan. How much of an achievement is this for Arne Slot and for Liverpool in general?
I think it's an incredible achievement. Yeah, no one had expectations. Liverpool the last few years have made some good decisions. Their FSG, the owners, they're known for being quite tight with money, but they're also known for being very meticulous with their decisions and their research. It
is so much the case as when a manager changes that there's an adjustment period, whether it's, a succession plan like with Fergie, and obviously that didn't go well, or if it's, a manager leaving and then somebody else coming in. There's always a period where we're figuring things out. That's just not happened this time, has it?
It's not happened. I think the reason it's worked is Arne Slot's come in and he said, you know what? Klopp has left an incredible squad here. It would be so easy to come in and be like, this is the way I play football. This is my philosophy. These are the players I need. I need to spend big in the summer transfer window. But he's come in and he's been like, I don't need any more players. Like, he's bought one, he bought Chiesa, and that's not really worked.
Yeah.
But he's looked at the squad, he's looked at what he can do, he's changed the formation slightly. I think one of his biggest masterstrokes this season has been moving Gravenberch a bit further back. He's looked incredible this season, and they wouldn't have won the league without him playing there.
McAllister's been a big part of it as well.
He's been really good as well. Apart from Mo Salah, he's been player of the season, I think, for me. But there's just these little tweaks that he's done.
So here's the question I'm going to ask you. How much of this was Arne Slot's victory, and how much of this was Jurgen Klopp's victory?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, isn't it?
Very good.
I don't know if you watched kind of the aftermath of the game yesterday, but Arne Slot got on the mic and started chanting Jurgen Klopp's name in the same way that when Jurgen Klopp left Liverpool last season, he sung Arne Slot's name. So there's been a real cohesion between the two. Apparently they still stay in touch now, talking about the team, that kind of thing. So I think it's just been a really smooth transition. I think it's Klopp's squad with Slot's tactics and kind of mentality. Because again, Liverpool aren't exciting to watch. They are controlled, they are measured, they get the job done. They're not gegenpressing as much as they did under Klopp, but it's worked.
One of the things that I think we'd like to do in this episode particularly is to look at belief and look at how these lessons in football can actually impact our everyday life. When it comes to Liverpool, how have they had the belief that they can go on and do this and win the title?
So I think this is something that actually goes back to the start of Klopp's reign. We speak about this phrase, doubters to believers, something he said in his first press conference. There's a really significant moment in 2015. It's actually a moment that Klopp kind of got ridiculed for doing. What happened was Liverpool drew 2-2 with West Brom at Anfield, which on paper looks like quite a bad result. You've only drawn at home to quite a significantly worse team in that season. But what he did is, it was a last-minute equaliser by Divock Origi to make it 2-2. He took the whole squad to the Kop to kind of applaud them, thank them for what they do, and almost celebrate this last-minute winner.
Yeah.
The whole world looked at that and thought, that's a bit ridiculous. You should be...
It's a bit tin pot.
A bit tin pot.
Yeah.
Where's your shame? That kind of thing. But he spoke about this as being kind of the start of this season of resilience for Liverpool as a team. I think this has carried on. What he said was, if you celebrate your small wins, then that gives you resilience and a mentality to move on and achieve success. This was kind of the start of that whole thing. And I think there's a really nice parallel here to what we can do in our everyday life. You know, we all have big dreams. We all have ambitions of what we want to do. We might have things that we are praying for, right, in our everyday life. It would be foolish to only pray for the big things and only thank God for doing big things. You know, I think the Bible encourages us to celebrate the small things that happen in our lives and recognize those things as little things that God has done. I don't know how small those things are, but we believe God works in the everyday.
I think it's looking as well, like if you're looking to make changes in your life, celebrating small wins is massive. I'm on a bit of a health kick at the moment, Joe.
Oh, you're
trying
looking
to
good.
well, I'm trying to shed a little bit of weight, and the thing is like it's very overwhelming when you look at the thing of, right, well, this is how much I want to lose or whatever that may be. But actually, if you sort of break that down and go, you know what, I just need to focus on today. What decisions can I make today? And then celebrate that day and say, you know what, that's great. I've managed to do some exercise. I've managed to eat fairly healthily. And I think like even bigger things, if it's like talking about prayer life, like that's something that's really scary. Develop your relationship with the God that created the universe. But actually, if you break it down into, you know what, this morning I'm just going to spend 10 minutes sitting in silence and maybe just say hi to God and see how that works, then that's how you make real lasting change, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good analogy as well. And it's remembering those little things that God has done that is going to fuel you to have faith for those bigger things as well. I think a really good thing to do here as well, I don't know if you're a journaler, Ed, I'm not very good at doing this, but kind of writing down those things that God has done in your life, those little prayers that he might have answered, builds that resilience in your faith, and that breakthrough is coming.
Going back onto Liverpool for a second, then, when these big moments happen, you can really celebrate them. And what a celebration, wasn't it? Because the last Premier League that Liverpool won, you couldn't really celebrate in the same way.
I think that was the whole thing with this. It almost felt like we were kind of celebrating two title wins, because they had that one in 2019-20, the COVID season, where fans weren't able to be in the stadium, the players weren't able to celebrate with the fans, and it was actually quite sad to see that they were kind of lifting the trophy on their own in the stadium. Jordan Henderson at the time was the captain. He says he felt like he'd been robbed of having that celebration. So it felt like yesterday was such a significant moment to be able to celebrate that all together. Moving
away from the champions, as I'm going to call them now.
Thank you very much.
Other Premier League chat, there was not a great deal going on. Ipswich officially relegated though.
Yeah, I think that was the only other story really this weekend, wasn't it? 3-0 loss to Newcastle, and it's been coming, hasn't it?
Isak may be moving to Liverpool. There's a lot of chat about that.
Maybe. I think it really depends on where Newcastle finish. I think if they get Champions League football, he'll probably stay and he'll give it a go.
Let's move on to the FA Cup semi-finals. These were two really, really entertaining games, actually. Let's start with Crystal Palace versus Villa. Crystal Palace winning this one and just looking really, really good.
The thing that struck me is they just had so much confidence going into this. They really backed themselves that they were going to get the win. I think as soon as you started watching this game, you just got that sense that Palace were going to win this. And in the end, they won quite comfortably. It could have been 4 or 5, I think, in this game.
Villa just didn't really turn up. There was sort of some arguments of them maybe sort of looking a bit sluggish, possibly. Yeah. Rashford wasn't involved because of an injury, and producer Anthony is just telling me in my ear that he's just been confirmed as being out for the rest of the season.
Oh, wow, that's a big loss.
But I think just in general, they looked second to every ball. Palace looked really, really good. The goals, I don't know if you saw. Did you see?
Incredible.
Superb. Eze, Ismail Sarr, just really, really good goals. And I just think they look like a team that is full of confidence, and like you say, just knows they're going to win. And what's really interesting, I don't know if you saw Oliver Glasner's post-match speech to the players, which Crystal Palace put out on their social media, which I always think is really weird, because you've got the squad all sat down, but half of them have got their top off. I think those moments should be sacred. I don't like seeing in changing room footage. No, I find it too weird. But they're all sort of sat around, and he's giving his post-match speech to them. There's a bit of him saying, look, let's not get carried away. We've had a great day. Let's celebrate it. But remember, we've not won the cup yet, which I think is always very sensible. But the thing that struck me was that he said, I told you. He's been trying to tell them how good they are. And he actually said, we are always together. His message to this team, this Crystal Palace team, is yes, they have a lot of talent, but they're never really going to compete with your Liverpools, etc., for talent. But what they can do is they can make up for that with their team spirit and with their togetherness. And actually, for Crystal Palace, they have never won a major trophy. So this is very different to Liverpool. This is not like they can look back at glory days or whatever. But they've actually not got a great deal to look back on.
It's kind of a different kind of belief, isn't it? That actually we haven't been here before, but we believe so much in our togetherness and the guy that's kind of managing us. I think there's so much to be said here about the way Oliver Glasner leads this team. In the same way that Jurgen Klopp was at Liverpool, that is just as important as your tactics on the
100%.
pitch.
There's a verse in Galatians 6 that says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And again, we're applying scripture to football situations. But there were moments for Crystal Palace they could have got in their heads in this game. They were 1-0 up when Mateta missed a penalty. And that felt like a moment where somebody has failed, somebody in our team has failed, this could all start to unravel. And it just didn't. You felt the players come around their teammate, and Mateta grew into the game even after that and was better than he was at the start. Having people around you who can put that belief into you, like the word encourage, means to put courage in you. If, day-to-day life is meaning that you don't have a great deal of belief, if you can still summon the energy to go to church or summon the energy to go to a small group, is that having good people around you like that who believe in you and are together with you, that can be really powerful.
Yeah, there's something about Crystal Palace, isn't there, that they really have this sense of unity, and a lot of their players are so outwardly vocal about their faith.
Yeah.
And I think it's really nice to see.
It is. So anyone who knows anybody at Crystal Palace, get in touch, because we want to speak to them, don't we, Joe?
Yes, please.
Let's get Mark Gay on the podcast.
Wouldn't mind it.
Let's do it. Moving on to the other FA Cup semi-final, Nottingham Forest versus Man City. This was, again, I feel like the general population was rooting for Forest, and it didn't really happen in this one.
No, it didn't. I think it was a bit of a shame that this was actually on at the same time as the Liverpool game, because I wanted to watch both.
Yeah.
Really, and I chose my heart.
You chose Liverpool. I chose the FA Cup semi-final.
I wasn't going to miss the Liverpool game, was it? But I did want to watch the Forest game here. But I think a few questionable decisions from Nuno here.
The big one really was that Elanga didn't start. Forest had just a bit of sluggishness going forward, and that's been their strength. And he made the choice to bring Elanga on at half-time. Immediately, Forest looked better. They were 1-0 down at this point. But then, after a few minutes, City got a goal from a corner. And you just think, well, that's sort of game over at this point. The way that Forest want to play is hitting teams on the break. City were able to sit back and absorb the pressure. And so, without really, pulling up trees, is that the term?
Very good for a Forest.
Yeah, exactly. City managed to win the game comfortably without actually looking that good.
Yeah, I think if you're a Forest fan, you're wanting City to come at you so you can hit them on the break. But if you're not starting Elanga, you don't have that break, really. I think I wonder if Nuno's kind of overthought this game. He's not played Elanga. He's also started Danilo in midfield. Yeah. And he didn't look good either. This wasn't the Nottingham Forest that we've seen all season. And it's a real shame. Moving over to Man City, they're obviously in a great position here in the FA Cup final, chasing Champions League. If they get both of those things, is it a good season for Man City?
Well, no, I don't think it is at all. And I think Pep has said something to that effect, hasn't he?
He says this doesn't save our season.
Yeah, which, I actually quite admire that because it's true.
But that's how high his standards are.
Yeah, so we have officially a Man City versus Crystal Palace FA Cup final, don't we, Jeff?
We do.
So we now are down to one game left in the Championship, League One and League Two. Let's start with the Championship. It's between Leeds and Burnley for the title. Obviously, both sides are going up now. The big question is can either Leeds or Burnley actually cope in the Premier League?
Well, I think as a neutral, we've had 2 seasons in a row now where every promoted club has got relegated. Yeah. Kind of showing that there's this gap growing between the Premier League and the Championship. I don't think anyone wants to see that. You look at a team like West Ham in the Premier League this season, any other season before, they'd be in real trouble. Yeah. They've not been good at all. They've won 9 games all season. And the only reason they're staying up is because the Championship teams that got promoted just aren't good enough. I think there's an interesting conversation here about Leeds. They obviously got promoted going for the title, but there's talk that they are going to swap out their manager. Daniel Farke's had a great season for Leeds, obviously. He said they're going to go up. They have. But they're thinking of changing him. What do you think of that?
I think it's crazy, personally. Yeah. I just think, like, if a manager has got you promoted, I mean, I understand, the questions about how a manager might play, or, didn't have a great record in the Premier League, Farke, so I get that. I just think if a manager has got a team promoted, I think he deserves a go. I always feel sorry for for players that get a team promoted and then immediately get shipped off to another championship team. Like, give him a go. Like,
I think he's had a go, though.
Well,
he's had a go at Norwich, and
I would be keeping Daniel Farke in.
See, I think I'm in the other camp. I think, to me, this just screams international break sacking.
You mean like, October?
Yeah,
or something?
I think 5 games in, I think they're just going to roll the dice. They're going to sack him and get someone else in. Why bother? I don't think he's a good enough manager for the Premier League. I think, for me, you look at an example of Bournemouth a couple of seasons ago. They were really struggling under Scott Parker. They got rid of him and they brought Gary O'Neill in. He did a great job. He kept them up, made them look good. And at the end of the season, they thought, thank you very much. We're getting someone else in now. And at the time, everyone was like, oh, that's harsh. Gary O'Neill's got them to this point.
Yeah.
But they're now bringing in this Spanish manager that no one's really heard of. Look at Bournemouth now, like going for Europe. That was such a cutthroat decision, but it's really worked. And I think if you're a promoted team wanting to go up, I think you have to make hard decisions. You've got to make decisions with your head rather than your heart.
What Leeds can do is that they can look to the 2020-2021 season, where, if you remember, they came up and they were brilliant. Under Bielsa, they came up and looked outstanding, top half finish, and really, really sort of took everybody by surprise. Everything will be negative around them. Everything will be saying, oh dear, are they going to go down again? Oh, they might be okay. They might, But they just need to focus on what they've done previously. In Psalm 77, it speaks about remembering the deeds of the Lord and says, yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. Maybe surviving your first season in the Premier League is a mighty deed and a miracle of the Lord. It could well be. But I think, that verse is speaking about, when times feel tough, just remember what I did. Remember what God did, not so long ago, because actually as humans, we are prone to memory loss in these things. We're prone to think the worst case scenario. And actually, if Leeds just have a bit of belief and remember what they achieved a few years ago, they could do the same again. Let's continue through the Championship playoffs. Sheffield United and Sunderland are both there. It'll be between Bristol City, Coventry, Millwall and Blackburn for the other places. I think particularly looking at Millwall and Blackburn, they've both had remarkable late runs. You always get these teams, don't you, with a month or so to go, just go on this surge and sort of end up sneaking in. That will be either Millwall or Blackburn if they can do it. I think Coventry and Bristol will hold out there. It's particularly scary at the bottom of the Championship, Joe.
Yeah, how are you feeling, Ed?
Not good. Not good. So for any of you that have not been following the bottom of the Championship, Stoke go into the final day of the season still technically with the possibility of getting relegated.
Squeaky bum time.
It's not good.
What needs to happen for that to happen? So
Stoke are away at Derby. Derby are one place below us, and Stoke need to draw.
So they're definitely going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. If we draw, we're fine. But that means that we're not going to. Cardiff relegated at the weekend. Plymouth are all but gone, pretty much. So the final spot really is going to go to one of Hull, Luton, Preston, Derby or Stoke. There's 2 points between those teams. So we will see. But yes, I will be very nervous. I might just go and play golf or something while it's happening.
Just ignore the whole thing.
Just ignore the whole thing and find out, later on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to League One. The top two sewn up. Birmingham 1 point and 2 games from the record of 106 points, which would be an incredible achievement, wouldn't it?
That's massive. And yet they've spent a lot of money, haven't they? They've signed Jay Stansfield this season for £15 million, which is absolutely unheard of
at that level.
League One. But money doesn't always guarantee success, and I think they've done really well. I think Chris Davis has done a remarkable job to kind of just revitalise this Birmingham side. I went to see them this season in the Cup, and the feeling around Birmingham this season is miles different to how it has been the last few years.
Yeah.
And I think he's done a great job. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they get on in the Championship.
And interestingly, I feel like that this amazing achievement has kind of gone under the radar because of second-placed Wrexham, who've pulled off an arguably an even more amazing story of 3 promotions on the spin, reaching the second tier in only the second time in their history. Even with the Hollywood backers, you couldn't write this script, Joe, could you?
Very good.
Or could you?
Well, I don't know.
Have they just bought it?
I don't necessarily know if they've bought it. Obviously, they've pumped a lot of money in. I think what's happened is there's a really strong narrative around this team.
Yeah.
And I think the 2 owners have managed to attract players that would never go down to that level. So even you think of their first big signing, Paul Mullen, he was top scorer in a league above Wrexham the year before he signed, and for some reason he made a decision to go down because he believed in that project.
Yeah.
I think there's all this talk of can they go straight to the top. I don't think you can do that in the Championship.
Especially given what they've talked about, their plan is to not change the squad wholesale. Their plan is to keep with the squad because they've been trying to build in advance. So they believe they're only 3 or 4 signings away from a competitive promotion-winning Championship squad, which I think is remarkable.
Now, last week we had the news that Leicester City legend Jamie Vardy is leaving Leicester. Vardy to Wrexham.
Yeah, that feels...
Do you think it works?
It feels completely inevitable.
It feels inevitable, doesn't it? I think that would be a great signing.
I think we're coming back to this point of belief again, because who would have believed in Wrexham 5 years ago that this is where they were going to be?
Next season, they're going to be in the league above Cardiff.
Yeah.
As if you think of like the Welsh teams in English football, you've got Cardiff and Swansea, and then Wrexham a few leagues below.
Yeah.
This is completely swapping it round.
There was a really interesting quote from Ryan Reynolds this weekend, and he said 4 years ago, this man, and he was referring to Rob McElhenney, said, "Our goal is to make it to the Premier League." And there was understandably a lot of titters, laughter and giggles, but it is starting to feel like a tangible thing that could actually come to fruition. And I think there's something scriptural about this as well. Like Matthew 19 tells us that with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Now, again, taking it out of context, I feel like I have to mention that over and over again. But like the whole point is that if we're doing something, if we want to aim for something in our lives, we can aim big, because depending on what it is, of course, we can do it with God on our side, with God alongside us. And actually, we can sort of walk into life and say, you know what, actually, yes, I'm being ambitious about this job, but you know, if I've prayed for it and if I believe that it's a vision from the Lord, then actually, why not? Why couldn't I do this?
God loves big dreams.
He does.
He wants us to be ambitious.
Now, I do need to sort of stress at this point, I don't believe that God is just saying, dream big and I'll give it to you.
No, 100%.
You know, so we have to be careful there. You know, this is not a sort of name it and claim it thing. But I don't believe that it's God's design that we should shrink and we should just go, oh, well, let's just go with what's safe and go with what I know I can achieve. Actually, I do believe God is challenging us, that we can step out in faith and we can aim for the stars, Joe. You know, what's that terrible quote? Shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll still end up amongst the stars.
What verse is that from?
I don't know. I've seen it on somebody's wall in their living room recently.
Yeah,
you know,
on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's so important with this kind of thing that if you have big ambitions, you have big dreams, you might get opposition to that.
Yeah.
Right. There might be people around you that think, "Oh, are you sure you're capable of doing that?" But we serve a God who is faithful to us. It might not be that our dreams are going to come to reality. God obviously has this plan for us, and I think as long as we are trusting in Him, we are going to see good things.
It's very easy for us to put God in a box that is, you know, our sized. And I think actually, if we're praying or believing for something where actually God can come alongside us, then I think God wants us to dream big in these situations. looking at the rest of the league, it's a straight shootout for the final playoff space, I think, between Leyton Orient and Reading. Anthony has just mentioned in my ear.
He's good at that, isn't he?
He's very good.
It's good having him here.
Because actually he knows more about this sort of stuff than we do, is that there's some kind of agreement in principle. So it's looking like that they will hopefully have a new owner all wrapped up soon. And I know that there's been a whole thing with Dai Young, and
this is absolutely huge, isn't it?
This is massive because Reading fans have really, really been through it.
It's been rough
over the last few years. Moving into League Two, Doncaster and Port Vale both securing promotion following victories at the weekend. I'm going to say it, Port Vale, thoroughly deserved. Yeah. Well played, up the Vale.
They've done really well this year.
They've done really well, as of Doncaster.
Yeah, and I'm happy for Darren Moore here, actually. He had a rough ride with, that famous comeback with Sheffield Wednesday a couple of seasons ago. Came back from a 4-0 deficit in the playoffs and they went up. And then he got sacked. And that again, what we spoke about before with Farker, that's really hard to take. So to have this bit of success, I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, big fans of Darren Moore here on the Big Man Up Top. It's between Bradford, Walsall and Notts County for that third automatic spot. AFC Wimbledon probably safely in the playoffs at this point. Salford, Grimsby and Chesterfield are all in the mix on the final day, so could get a bit interesting there. Morecambe and Carlisle, led by manager Mark Hughes.
Yeah, this kind of went under the radar.
Destroyer of football clubs.
Yeah, he was at Bradford. Was it last season, the season before? Now at Carlisle.
No idea, but
his managerial career is kind of petering out, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I could have told you that after his time at Stoke. But yes, Carlisle have been relegated along with Morecambe. That's it, wrapping up in League Two. But there was loads of drama in the National League South, Joe.
I absolutely love this. I saw this graphic before the weekend that this is where it's all at. The National League South.
Exactly.
One promotion place and that goes to the league winner.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So it was their final day this weekend just gone. Now you might remember, long-time listeners to the podcast, if you were there back in episode 1, we had guest Luke Sharp, who is a Torquay United fan. And you know what? There wasn't much about the National League South because obviously it's not televised.
It's not.
They're not talking about it on Soccer Saturday.
You're having to find it on your niche local radios, aren't you?
Exactly. But I asked Luke to fill me in on the drama because there was a lot of it.
The final day of the National League South season was crazy. The top 6, separated by 3 points, all had a chance of winning the title and sealing automatic promotion. Truro City, Torquay United, my team, come on the goals. Eastbourne, Worthing, Boreham Wood and Dorking Wanderers were all battling it out. My hope was high as a Torquay United fan. We only had to better Truro's result by 2 goals. But within the first 15 minutes, my hope quickly faded as Truro were 3-0 up. But miracles can happen. And Torquay scored 3 goals pretty quickly. And my hope was back. And at one point, we only needed 1 goal to seal the title against 10 men with 8 minutes of added time. But it's the hope that kills you. And Truro ended up winning their game 5-2. We won our game 4-1. We missed out on automatic promotion and winning the title by just 2 goals. The rest of the teams all won their games. The day ended as it began. So we pray. Promotion for Torquay United through the playoffs. In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
There's a lot of teams we're apparently praying for I don't think this is going to work.
No, we need to work. We need to get a spreadsheet. Send in your prayers to podcast@ucv.co.uk. See what happens. But yeah, just real drama. 6 teams on the last day in with a chance of winning the league and going up in the only promotion spot.
That's pretty savage, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But the other teams, there are 6 playoff spots in that league. Not entirely sure how that works. That'll be another one to keep our eyes on.
We will do.
Moving on to Europe, I think we were just going to finish it here, but actually there was a lot going on in Europe as well, wasn't there,
There's been so much going on this weekend. Let's start in Spain with the Copa del Rey final.
So I missed all of the European action, so I'm going to need you to fill me in on this, Joe.
I'll do my best. Well, the Copa del Rey final was Real Madrid against Barcelona, and they've not played in the final for quite a while, I think. There was a stat that I read, I can't remember how many years. Got Real Madrid, who are kind of struggling this season. They're not quite making their forward line work. Obviously, they're out of Europe a couple of weeks ago to Arsenal, and they're playing the Barcelona team who have some really exciting young players, but it feels any minute could completely collapse financially. It ended 3-2 to Barcelona in extra time, but there was a lot of drama.
So what happened?
Well, it was 2-2 up until the last minute where Barcelona got given a penalty. Quite a soft penalty. Went to VAR, got overruled after a lot of Real Madrid persuasion. It's important to say as well, just before this game, Real Madrid, in the most Real Madrid way, complained about which referee was taking this game.
Feels very on brand.
Very on brand. In the same way they weren't happy that Vinicius didn't win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
That's another story. Barcelona go on to win 3-2 in extra time. A great goal by Jules Koundé, who did the same celebration that Saka did when he scored against Real Madrid. So that's another layer to wind up Real Madrid. And that worked because they had 3 players sent off. One of those players was Rudiger, who is going to get banned for a while, Ed.
Yeah, what happened?
He threw something at the ref.
Yeah, you can't be doing that.
Can't be doing that.
No.
So, needless to say, Real Madrid took the loss well, and they will move on to lose the league to Barcelona.
I am detecting, Joe, that, with Trent moving to Real, you're sort of slightly enjoying this, aren't
Am I
you?
a little bit salty? Yeah. Look, why would he want to go, Ed?
Exactly. It's all falling apart. Let's move over to Germany, where Harry Kane is really struggling to get over his curse, isn't he? What's happening there?
Bayern Munich are going to win the league quite comfortably this season after not winning it last year to Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, Harry Kane has moved to Bayern Munich to win trophies.
Just to win a trophy, really.
And this season, he's going to lift the Bundesliga trophy, or is he?
Apparently not, because near the end of the game this weekend, Harry Kane found himself being given a very soft yellow card for time wasting and will miss the game.
Where they lift the trophy. Goodness me.
So
do you think we'll get a John Terry situation?
Well, this is it.
Full kit?
He's going to be putting his kit on to come out to lift the trophy, isn't he?
I can't wait.
He's already released a statement saying something about how disappointed he is, but it's fine. It's fine.
It's absolutely fine.
It's fine.
I'm not bothered.
Yeah, I'm not bothered at all. But yeah, bless him.
Let's move over to Italy, where Inter Milan have looked really good all season, but kind of fallen away.
Yeah, and Napoli are now 3 points clear with 4 games to play. And McTominay, who scored a brace this weekend, has been branded a genius by the Italian media. They love him.
That's so interesting.
And there's been loads of talk about McTominay coming back to England. And I'm like, why would you?
Why would you?
Like, they love him in Italy.
I feel like, as Premier League fans, we have no idea how good Scott McTominay is, because...
just that sentence makes me laugh.
Ten Hag just kind of threw him on, didn't give him a position. He just kind of said, run around.
Just have a go.
And he scored the odd last-minute winner. He's quite good at doing that. But yeah, he's absolutely thriving in Napoli.
Very much so. Paris Saint-Germain, they've already won the league.
Yeah,
Ligue 1 in France. But they were looking to be the first ever unbeaten Ligue 1 side.
Yes.
Like the Arsenal
This has never happened in League One.
No.
They were on for it. They've been so good this season.
And they sadly lost at home to Nice with 4 games to go.
So a bit of jeopardy for PSG now. They didn't look great in that second leg against Aston Villa, and they lost to Nice. So playing Arsenal this week, anyone's game.
Anyone's game, absolutely. Look, Joe, before we wrap up, I think it's just really important to sort of, to touch on the points we were talking about earlier, which is about belief, going from being a doubter to a believer. What lessons have we learned? So I think in life, if we want to believe more, if we're struggling from a lack of belief, a lack of faith, I think we can take these lessons from the football this weekend. I think we need to celebrate small wins like Liverpool.
Which is a small win there, because I'd argue this league title is quite a big win.
Well, yeah, no, but the whole point was the small wins.
West Brom one.
Yeah, the West Brom one.
Fine.
It's built up.
Just wanted to clarify that we're on the same page, that this is an absolutely monumental league title win.
Fine, but the culture changed because of the celebrating small wins. I think we need to surround ourselves with good people, like at Crystal Palace. I think that's very important. Yeah. I think we need to remember the good times and take encouragement for when times feel a bit scary or ominous, like Leeds as they go into the Premier League. And I think we need to dream big, like Wrexham.
And I don't know if you're like me, but I really struggle to do those things when I'm in the moment. So I think if you are a journaler, if you're someone that likes to write things down, I think these are things you can do. You can write down those small things that have happened in your life where God has been there. Write down those big prayers that God has answered, but also let's write down the small prayers that God has answered, because these are things you can go back to, and these can encourage you in your faith for moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay, Joe, it's time for Bible Ballers.
Yes. Ed, we've covered a lot of ground this episode. I feel like I've not given you much space to have a think.
Talking about belief, I'm not believing.
Well, let me encourage you to have a think about the questions that you have answered correctly in the past.
Yeah, not many.
To encourage you in this question. Shall I read it to you one more time?
Please.
Which former centre-back was sent off during a World Cup final and has won the Premier League, having represented both clubs on Merseyside?
Did this player win the league with either of those clubs?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a centre-back for Liverpool who was a Premier League winning centre-back for Liverpool who got sent off in a World Cup final. I honestly, I cannot think.
Gonna have to rush you, I'm afraid, Ed.
I'm gonna have to pass.
Pass.
I'm gonna have to pass, and it's gonna annoy me. And you're gonna tell me who it is, and I'm gonna get very angry.
Well, I've been a little bit sneaky with
of course you have.
The wording here. You will notice at no point did I say played for both Everton and Liverpool. The answer to this week's question is former Everton centre-back and current Liverpool assistant manager John Heitinger.
I'm not happy with this.
Why are you not happy with
I'm not happy with this.
Why are you not happy with that? This feels like one of your tricks.
No. I expected better from you, Joe.
No, come
Rivers.
on. Why? I would say assistant manager is representing a team.
I think that is very dodgy. Whatever.
No.
Anyway,
stop being sour.
I'm being very sour, but no, it's okay,
You're
Joe.
just sad that you haven't thought of that before.
You can have it. This has been your week,
I will have
Joe.
it.
This has been your week. Don't you worry.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the big man up top.
Unbelievable.
Well, Ed, get over it. If you want to get in touch with the show, ping us an email to podcasts@ucb.co.uk. Please follow, subscribe, and give us good reviews, because this will help us get the word out. Also, if you've enjoyed this, please tell your mates. Also, a huge thank you to our producer Anthony for all his hard work behind the scenes. And there'll be a new episode next Tuesday, Ed.
There will, won't there, Joe?
There will. Hopefully you will have got over your setback.
I'll be fine. It's all good.
Sure. And hopefully Stoke are still in the Championship.
Yeah. We'll see, won't we?
I'll see you next week.
See you next week, Joe.